In the fall of 1933, a train from Semey arrived at the Almaty railway station. A young man was traveling on this train. He could not sleep. He was tossing and turning. He was worried. How will this big and beautiful city greet him? Will he be able to make his dream come true and get into the theater and become an actor? Would the fellow actors accept him? Would the director believe in him? These thoughts occupied the young man's mind until dawn. He then fell asleep until the conductor started hurrying everyone on the train to the exit. Descending from the top shelf, he froze in bewilderment. His boots were missing. They were stolen while he slept.
Этот молодой человек, прибывший в Алматы...
This young man who arrived in Almaty without boots, practically barefoot, will leave an incredible mark on Kazakh theater and cinema. Everyone will know his name, not only in Kazakhstan, but also far beyond its borders. His films will become part of the golden fund of Soviet and Kazakh cinema. They will become the classics that many generations of the young directors will look up to and follow. This man is none other than the founder of Kazakh cinema, Shaken Aimanov.
казахского кино Шакен Айманов.
His life journey began from here, from the picturesque Bayanavol village. The nature of his homeland inspired him. Since childhood, he felt that he was drawn to creativity, that his thoughts were filled with fantasies, and his dreams carried him far away, and there were no end to them. He had a large family. But little Shakarim, which was his full name, sometimes liked to be alone. He chose a place not far from home and would run there as a child. When he grew up, he even captured this place in one of his photos.
Нужно сказать, что отец его...
Shaken Aimanov's mother was Jamal and father Kinjitai. Jamal was an amazing woman. I think that he looked more like his mother than his father, as opposed to his brother Kauken, an opera singer who looked more like their father, both facially and physically.
Его на Кинжитая похож его брат Каукен, который был оперным певцом, и на лицо похож был, а вот он похож был больше на мать. Сохранилась ее фотография.
There is only one photograph of Jamal left. I remember it. She is in a white dress with a white scarf around her neck and incredibly kind eyes.
Добрые глаза. И вот в этой большой семье, в которой 6 детей было.
In this large family with 6 children, Shaken was an active boy and a big dreamer. Didn't always listen to his father and mother.
Очень фантазер большой, не всегда слушался отца и мать. И вот когда нужно было что-то сделать...
When they needed him for something, they couldn't find him. He was hiding in the mountains in a stone cave. He went there to get the inspiration he needed. Maybe being there helped him find insight. He looked at nature and felt some kind of freedom.
Может быть, наполнялся он вот этим содержанием большим, смотрел на природу, чувствовал свободу какую-то.
After graduating from school, Shaken went to Semey, a cultural and educational center of that time. He enrolled in the teacher's seminary, but his calling was the theater. Aimanov devoted almost all his free time to the theater. He didn't miss a single production or performance. which took place regularly as professional companies often came to Semey. He tried himself as an actor and director and felt that stage is his life. Once, during a performance, he drew the attention of the writer Gabit Musrepov, who, at that time, was the head of the arts department in the People's Commissariat of Education of the Kazakh SSR, and traveled around the country in search of talented youth. Musrepov was amazed by the versatility of young Aimanov's talent. He had everything: the ability to improvise, self-confidence, and, of course, undeniable acting talent. Shaken Aimanov was invited to Almaty to join the troupe of the Kazakh Drama Theater. From this moment on, a new life began for Aimanov. A significant part of his professional career was connected to the Kazakh Drama Theater. On the stage of this theater, he played many wonderful roles and, as a stage director and artistic director, worked here for many years, up until 1953. He embodied on stage the legendary Shakespearean characters like Othello or Petruchio. He was so good that even European audiences applauded him. Qoblandı Batır and Kodar, Akan Sera, Khristakov, and Velikatov. Every role Aimanov performed made every show sell out. Each production became a whole event. He fulfilled all his creative ideas, introduced something new into his roles. He was full of energy which drew everyone to him. It was a real happiness and professional achievement for colleagues to talk to or work with Aimanov.
When you say Shaken, Attila comes to mind right away. When you say Shaken, Aldar Kosek comes to mind. He had an incredible creative approach. He was not playing, he immersed himself into the character completely. While studying the role, he knew how to transform. He is a master. I watched his performance of Attila several times. When I watch, I don't understand where his character ends and he himself begins. There is no telltale sign. This is the greatest master. He is a genius, a pure genius. Only selected people can do what Shaken Aimanov could do. His most striking role, especially those that viewers know from films, are the role of Petruchio in the play The Taming of the Shrew, where he plays with Khadisha Bokeyeva. It was truly a wonderful tandem of two great talented people. What is Shaken Aimanov's secret? His knowledge. I mean his national knowledge. He had an excellent knowledge of Kazakh literature, Kazakh traditions of song and customs. Plus, Shaken Aimanov was a very attentive person, or rather a quick-witted one. He could sit and listen to people and remember everything. It was his natural talent. He absorbed the culture, which he learned by growing up in a village. He knew the everyday culture and life of his people.
He loved Almaty with all his heart, loved to walk along the alleys and parks, loved the creative and festive atmosphere inherent in this city. He quickly made many new friends, the public adored him, and the most beautiful girls dreamed of him. However, Shaken Aimanov's first love was unhappy. One day, when Shaken was reminiscing, he was talking about this. He didn't talk about it just anywhere. No, it was a secret love. Shara Jinkulova was good-looking in her youth. She was the standard of beauty at that time. She was gorgeous. But she was already married.
Это был эталон вот красоты в то время, ну, необычайно хороша, но она была замужем уже. А муж ее...
And her husband was a major figure in theater, Kurmanbek Jandarбеков. What a voice, what a great actor. He had authority in the theater. He was a wonderful person, both on stage and in the troupe. A notable figure, he was number one.
В театре, и на сцене, и в труппе. Заметная фигура, это первый номер был. И, в общем, там действительно была такая очень большая любовь.
Shaken really loved Shara a lot. He gave her his heart. He thought about her. Of course, she was the standard of beauty, and of course, he hid those feelings. But the insightful Kurmanbek Jandarбеков understood everything. Interestingly enough, it wasn't a scandal. He just took Aimanov aside backstage and said, "I see the way you look at Shara. Careful now." This is where the hidden love ended.
Я вижу, как ты смотришь на Шару. Смотри, парень. Ну, тут уже это был, ну, в общем, конец вот этих вот потаенных мечтаний и потаенной вот этой любви.
He suffered so much that he even wanted to leave his beloved Almaty forever, and only Shara, in a serious conversation, was able to convince him to stay and not give up on his dream. Later, they will star together in the first Kazakh film Amangildi. Shaken had a small role there. Shara was the lead.
Mında әйел ne olacak?
Az suğumuzda yendigimiz tep beredi Batır.
Onda buған қарудың керегі не?
Немен әйел мылтық ата алмайды дейсіз бе?
Years later, Aimanov met Shara Zhiyankulova's sister Khadisha and proposed to her. Together, they will go through life and raise two children, Mayra and Murat.
Знаменитый дом артистов.
This is the famous House of Artists, one of the first high-rise buildings in Almaty, located at 62 Qarasay Batar Street. It was in this house that Shaken Aimanov lived with his family. However, he was not the only one. Who else lived here? Biken Rimova and Latif Hamidi, Kalibek Konashbekov and Yuri Pomerantsev, and many others lived in this house modestly, but amicably and very cheerfully.
From the memoirs of Andabek, Kalibek Konashbaev's son. Uncle Shaken was inexhaustible in his inventions. Not a single celebration in our big house took place without this witty storyteller. We then lived on the third floor, across the wall from him. One day, not wanting to send his son to our flat for a frying pan, he found an easy way to get it quickly. Through his balcony, he extended a long stick to our window, to which this frying pan needed to be tied. Since then, the most incredible objects have fluttered from the window to the balcony and vice versa. And this whole procedure was accompanied by laughter, squealing and delight. The voice of his wife Khadisha sounded louder than anyone else's. Khadisha was a cheerful, tall and beautiful woman, and was the younger sister of the famous dancer Shara. At home, she loved to wear a long robe, a pile of paper curlers on her head, and a cigarette in her long fingers.
Но она вообще была такая фигура, знаете, неоднозначная.
She was an ambiguous figure. She was such a type of Kazakh women. She was so independent and self-affirming. My daughter is like her, surprisingly. She loved her madly and somehow managed to adopt her character traits. Khadisha's posture was like this, and she walked like this. And she loved long robes, satin ones with flowers. You know, the Chinese ones. All sorts of flowing silks.
Таким атласным, с цветами, да, знаете, китайские вот эти вот всякие струящиеся шелка. То есть она была не очень, скажем так...
That is, she was not very homely. Although she loved to receive guests and knew how to receive them. But she devoted a lot of time to the theater and the troupe. She still looked after the house.
Отдавала много времени труппе. И получалось, что в доме-то не очень, так сказать, было все ею присмотрено.
1941. War. Not only plants and factories were evacuated from Moscow and Leningrad besieged by the Nazis to Almaty, but also the two largest film studios, Mosfilm and Lenfilm. as well as the all-Union State Film Institute, VGIK. The entire elite of Soviet cinema came here. Actors, directors, camera operators. This relocation will result in powerful creative growth for Kazakhstan. Many iconic films of that time were shot here. Songs of Abai, Song of the Giant, Son of a Fighter, Killers Take to the Road, Wait for Me, She Defends the Motherland, Ivan the Terrible.
Сокс – это странное слово.
Socks is a strange word, a very dear to me word. It means Central Unified Film Studios. Socks was a creative, wonderful and amazing community of the old, great masters of our cinema and the young Kazakh artists. It was an amazing demonstration, a creative demonstration of the friendship between the peoples of our country and the creative success that did not subside even during the war, even for a minute. It did not wane, but remained fierce.
Был яростным.
Да, эта мощная энергия
This powerful energy of unification could not bypass Shaken Aimanov. At first, he acted only in episodes, as if trying out cinema, and then, in 1953, he decided to leave the theater and devote himself entirely to cinema.
и полностью посвящает себя кинематографу.
From the memoirs of Shaken Aimanov. My transition from theater to cinema is mainly due to my passionate desire to demonstrate and share the transformations in my native land as widely and deeply as possible. I love the theater, but theater cannot reach as many viewers as cinema. The play is staged in one theater, or at best in several theaters, and the film is watched by tens of thousands.
His directorial debut was The Poem of Love in 1954. In the same year, Daughter of the Steppes was released, where one of the leading roles were portrayed by his wife Khadisha.
Я взяла из костра раскаленный железный пруд и такой меня совсем не захотел в жены.
Внимание, товарищи! Спокойно. Занимайте свои места. Товарищ в пятом ряду, не разговаривайте. Вы мне мешаете. Пожалуйста, смотрите на меня и повторяйте каждое мое движение. Приготовились и... Раз, два, три, четыре.
However, Shaken Aimanov received fame and recognition for the film Our Beloved Doctor. Everything came together in this film. His directorial talent, acting talent, the script, the soundtrack, and a whole bunch of movie and pop stars.
Отыскать я смог золотой цветок с этим именем прекрасным Бибигуль, Бибигуль. Надо мной небо синее, облака лебединые.
Манипулятор или иллюзионист?
А как вы можете это доказать?
Очень просто.
Наш милый доктор – это так называемый фильм-ревью, да?
Our Beloved Doctor is a film in the review genre, a genre that is outdated today. Not really a musical, more like New Year shows on TV channels. Most of the film is comprised of musical performances, rather than storytelling. People love music and the music was brilliant. Zetsepin's music specifically. For example, the Song of Spring performed in the film by Bibigul Tolegenova. People still love to sing these songs at the table. These are the songs that will last forever. And this is the secret of Our Beloved Doctor. A story about generations, a young girl gathers a bunch of people to congratulate a doctor who is turning 60.
Shaken Aimanov в то время застал великих, как
Shaken Aimanov was living at the time of the great Brigitte Bardot, Sophie Loren, Federico Fellini, Marcello Mastroianni. He was also contemporary to such luminaries as Gani Kulzhanov, Sergei Bondarchuk, and others. But he did not follow in the footsteps of neo-realism, like the Italians or the French, the new wave. He remained true to his source. He didn't leave the ground.
от земли.
Шакен Айманов, безусловно, стал законодателем.
Shaken Aimanov certainly became the founder of Kazakh cinema. He was the first to introduce the cameo element in his films, when the director appears in a small role.
Себя в эпизодическую роль. А его способности создавать
His efficiency and ability to create a creative environment on the film set were legendary, as was his fanatical love for chess.
шахматом. В любую свободную минуту
At any free moment, Shaken Aimanov sat down at the chessboard and played with everyone, and really didn't like to lose.
со всеми и очень не любил проигрывать.
He liked all kinds of jokes and pranks, making fun of both his colleagues and his family, but always kindly, with love.
Это в доме прямо рассказывают.
This story was always told as, a family story. There was this Aunt Lucia. She took care of the children and the kitchen for a long time. She helped around the house a lot.
И кухня там, и все это, и помогала очень хорошо по дому. И однажды Shaken Kenjitai...
And it so happened that Shaken's father, Kenjitai, came to Almaty and stayed in Aimanov's house. Kenjitai was tall, slender, elderly man. He was also taciturn.
И он остался жить в доме Шакена. А дедушка Кенджитай, он такой был высокий, стройный такой старичок, аксакал. И такой немногословный, все это. Тетя Луша такая.
And Lucia was often in the house helping up. One day, Shaken Aimanov saw that his father was taken with Lucia. Shaken said to Lucia, "Don't you worry. You serve tea to Khadisha now, but if you marry Kenjitai, she will serve tea to you."
А что ты переживаешь? Ты вот сейчас подаешь чай Хадише, а когда, если ты выйдешь замуж за Кенджитая, она тебе будет чай подавать. Все засмеялись.
Everyone laughed. Nothing happened in the end, but this was a thing that happened.
Почему такая большая? Братская. Твой брат здесь? Нет, это так называется. Их здесь много. Они все вместе погибли. А мой отец? Читай.
In 1966, Shaken Aimanov began filming The Land of the Fathers. Aimanov considered this film special in his directorial career. It was a deep and complex drama which, he believed, the audience did not fully understand and appreciate. On the other hand, films The Beardless Liar, made for Aimanov's 50th birth anniversary, and Angel in Skullcap were a real sensation.
Жалғыз басты еркектің күні құрысын. Жанашыр анасы болу керек. Не болмаса, әйелі.
The story of a mother looking for a wife for her middle-aged son depicted in The Angel in a Skullcap was based on a true story. Shaken had an aunt like that. The magnificent Amina Umrzakova played her in the film. This time everything came together as well. The cast, the script, and of course the amazing music by Alexander Zadzepin.
Ангел в тюбетейке на самом деле был о прогрессе.
The angel in a skullcap actually represented progress, the moving away from family stereotypes. This film is about an elderly woman looking for a bride for her middle-aged son. This story is relevant even today, but it is very important to understand the message of this movie. At the very end, at her son's wedding, the main character is asked if she will find matches for her grandchildren too. She says, "No, this is their time. Let them live as they want." This is a very important message that unfortunately we did not properly understand. To this day, we can see that parents manage the lives of their adult children. Shaken Aimanov said that the older generation needs to let go. This was the message of the angel in a skull cap. Probably the most striking scene in this film, which you can examine scene by scene, is where the girls from a university dorm sing the song "Where Are You, Odysseus?" They simply made a fool out of this old woman. Somebody warned them that this woman is here looking for a bride for her son. So they danced like crazy in swimming suits. Even today, a scene where young girls dance in swimsuits would be impossible. Back in the 60s it was. It didn't seem dirty or offensive. But now, it is as if we, on the contrary, have rolled back from the time when it was more okay.
He spent all his time on set. The children grew up and his relationship with Khadisha gradually cooled, until the very moment they realized that it was better for them to live separately. She continued to play in the theater, he was all in cinema. Yes, they stopped being a husband and a wife, but they remained good friends and loving parents. Together they celebrated the weddings of their children and the birth of grandchildren. Shaken's son Murat followed in his father's footsteps and became a director and cameraman. He and his father would shoot the film Land of the Fathers together. Their daughter Mayra chose music, became an opera singer, and married the then unknown but promising actor Asanali Ashimov. Ashimov's mother-in-law Khadisha at first did not accept him, believing that Aimanov's daughter deserved a more suitable match than this provincial guy. Shaken, on the contrary, liked Asanali. He saw in him both natural charisma and fire in his eyes. And was not mistaken. Ashimov brilliantly performed the role of secret police officer Madyarov in the film The End of Ataman. Moreover, young Ashimov starred in 2 films at the same time, portraying on the screen the treacherous Bekizhan from Qazhbek and the brave officer Madyarov.
When I played Bekizhan, I had a beard around my face. For the role of Madyarov in The End of Ataman, I could not have a beard. The secret police officer is not allowed even a mole, let alone a beard. Shaken then said, "It's okay, this is a movie, a feature film. All sorts of things can be in a feature film." Then he shaved from here to here and left it like I have now. Only it was black at that time. This is how I looked in The End of Ataman. And when I came to Qazhbek to shoot, they would glue the rest of the beard here. This is how we got out of the situation. I sometimes say jokingly that I'm a close-up actor. There were a lot of close-ups in The End of Ataman. Apparently, Aimanov loved close-ups. When we were shooting a close-up, he was always my partner. He was playing along to my acting from behind the camera. Truly, we delivered on anything we planned.
In 1963, the second oldest international film festival in the world took place in Moscow. Here and there, an unspoken directive emerges. The Soviet film must win. Among the contenders is the little-known Italian director Federico Fellini with the film 8½. When the time came to make a choice, the decisive vote was cast in favor of the Italian. This vote belonged to Shaken Aimanov. The third Moscow International Film Festival has ended. Soviet director Grigory Shukhay, chairman of the jury, announced the results of the competition. The Grand Prix goes to Federico Fellini, progressive Italian film director who presented the film 8½.
Этот поступок характеризует Айманова.
This act characterizes Aimanov very well. He was fair, with principles, and he never put politics or his own ambitions above art. He gave his vote to the director, whose work he really appreciated. Later, Federico Fellini would become a classic of Italian cinema, and Aimanov saw this potential back in 1963. However, this choice Aimanov made was noticed by the party functionaries. They crossed his name out from the list of nominees for the Order of Lenin.
Они вычеркнут его фамилию из списка претендентов на орден Ленина.
Nevertheless, Aimanov didn't get upset. Later, he would receive the Order of Lenin as well as other awards, because each film he created became mega popular and collected a lot of enthusiastic reviews from both the audience and the professionals. Shaken Aimanov traveled a lot, attended film festivals in different countries, and made friends and fans everywhere. He was truly a people's director. His professional style was understandable and relatable to any person of any age, anywhere in the world.
Здесь везде словно бы ощущается его дух.
It's as if his spirit is here. You can feel his presence everywhere. When the major construction of the Kazakh film studio began in 1968, every employee contributed to this process and was involved in the studio's creation. Everyone put a piece of their heart and soul. Actors, directors, cameramen, lighting personnel, and makeup artists, armed with shovels, buckets, and brushes, created this abode of cinema. They planted trees, dug ditches, swept, painted. 45 hectares were allotted to the studio. Such scale, such opportunities certainly motivated the studio staff. The country's film community felt an incredible rise.
Невероятный подъем.
Растет новый городок студии Казах.
The Kazakh film studio is growing. Trees planted by filmmasters of the fraternal republics are a symbol of growing friendship and the flourishing of multinational Soviet culture.
Национальной советской культуры.
Прошу вас.
The film The End of Ataman was filmed in the new pavilions of Kazakh film. It was a story about an exciting adventure, about the operation to eliminate Dutov's White Guard troops during the revolution. This was a new genre for director Aimanov. Asanali Ashimov, who got the leading part, realized his full acting potential and gained the love and recognition of an audience of millions.
Вы непочтительны к старшим.
Как можно быть почтительным к человеку, который позорно бежал в Китай, в то время, когда Советы рвались к власти? Именно по вине моего дядюшки и ему подобных Туркестан залит кровью.
И с такими убеждениями вы пошли работать в ЧК.
Я думаю, его фильм «Атаманның ақыры».
I think his film The End of Ataman deserves an Oscar for sure. Because to this day, when you watch The End of Ataman, it seems like it wasn't done by a human being. There wasn't even one unnecessary shot. He thought all of it over. He had it all figured out. At that time, they were making movies using film. To make a movie like this in such conditions is something. This is his best work as a director.
В качестве режиссера.
The End of Ataman became a classic. The script was co-written by Andrei Konchalovsky and Andrei Tarkovsky. Yerkegali Rakhmadiev wrote the soundtrack. Unfortunately, Shaken Aimanov never got to see the stunning success of his film. He tragically died on December 23, 1970. A car hit him on Tverskaya Street in Moscow.
Вот это все произошло.
All this happened after they finished the film. They submitted The End of Ataman to the Ministry of Culture, and he had to return to the studio, because there was a little gathering, a little celebration for the film crew, for everyone involved.
Ну, тут должен был быть какой-то небольшой банкет для съемочной группы, вот для тех создающих этот фильм. И он говорит, Я сейчас съезжу за своими.
He said that he was going to fetch his family from the hotel and take them to the gathering. When he needed to cross the street, he didn't use the underground passage but went along the street. It was a huge street. It had 8 lanes. The one in the middle was a reversible lane. It changes direction depending on the flow of cars on the rest of the lanes. If there are too many cars in one direction, the lane switches to allow more cars, which means cars can suddenly go the other way.
Разделенная, вот там, знаете, по-моему, она 8-полосная. И вот она посередине, там такая есть реверсивная полоса. Она включается то в одну, то в другую сторону в тот момент, когда поток машин на одной из полос становится большим. И тогда включается вот эта реверсивная...
Shaken Aimanov reached the middle of the road, and that reversible line suddenly switches, changes direction. He had this habit. He didn't wear gloves at all. He always put his hands in the pockets of his sheepskin coat. So when he reached the middle and a car passing by brushed him, didn't really hit him, and he simply couldn't keep his balance at that moment. If he had his hands out of his pockets, he would have probably found his balance, but instead he fell on the ground. And it so happened that there was a stone curb and he hit right the base of his skull on it.
В этот момент. Если бы у него были руки из карманов вынуты, он бы, конечно, как-то сбалансировал. А тут вот получилось там, что он уже, ну, в общем, он упал как раз, а там каменный бордюр, и как раз основание черепа он повредил себе. Уже потом я уже слышала много разговоров.
In the aftermath, I heard a lot of conversations that he was murdered. There was probably a setup. Of course it wasn't. He wasn't killed. It just happened. Afterwards, Asanali and Murat flew to Moscow and brought the body to Almaty.
Когда мы сели, взлетел самолет, и...
After we boarded the plane and it took off, people took turns coming to us to express their condolences. You know, they usually serve food on planes. That day, not a single person ate it. Everyone refused. When we came back, the airport was full of people. Thought that this was another of his jokes. I was holding his bloody sheepskin coat. When they saw it, they believed it.
Когда прилетели, я держал его дубленку, так окровавленный. Увидев, это поверили, да.
The death of the famous director was a huge tragedy for everyone. He was the foundation of cinema for the entire cinematic community. He was only 56. He could create so many masterpieces. He had already planned his next project, a film adaptation of Mukhtar Awezov's novel The Path of Abai. The Kazakh cinema could have had another wonderful film, but it didn't happen.
С народным режиссером.
The whole city came to say goodbye to Shaken Aimanov. The funeral procession went from Kazakh film to the Seyfulin street. Everyone knew that a great man had passed away. He left behind a huge legacy, a legacy that will touch the hearts and delight the minds of millions for many decades to come.
Миллионов людей.
Shaken Aimanov для культуры Казахстана.
Shaken Aimanov is the father of Kazakh cinematography. In a word, Shaken Aimanov is the person inseparable from the Kazakh art, the Kazakh culture. He was a bright star on the sky of cinema, of theatrical world, and the cultural life of the Kazakh people in general. His grave in the central cemetery of Almaty is modest. There is only his photo,
last name, and dates of life and death. Aimanov was also extremely modest in life, did not like excesses, did not accumulate wealth, lived for today, and was in love with his art. The sudden tragic death of Shaken Aimanov was a heavy blow for his family. His daughter and son, his grandchildren, as well as his ex-wife Khadisha, had a hard time with his death. Unfortunately, they all already perished. First, Khadisha passed away in May 1982, and then the daughter and son died as a result of illness, one after another, in 1992 and 1993.
Жизнь и смерть, вот они рядом ходят.
Life and death go side by side. And when a person lives, he or she has no idea how many twists of fate there will be and how to overcome them.
Повороты судьбы вот случаются, и их надо потом пережить. Вот. Поэтому вот в нашей семье это очень тяжелые. Вот эти 2 года были.
It was a very difficult 2 years for our family when we lost our loved ones. It is very sad and cannot be reversed.
Это очень скорбно, и никак нельзя поправить, понимаете как? Вот сколько ни страдай.
No matter how much you suffer, no matter how much you remember, it doesn't go away.
Вот так вот.
The series of deaths in the family did not end here. In 1998, Madi Ashimov, the eldest son of Mayra and Asanali Ashimov, died suddenly. A year later, the younger son Sagi passed away too. Madi was an architect, and Sagi followed in the footsteps of his father and grandfather, becoming a popular actor, who brilliantly played the role of young Shokan Valikhanov. Shaken loved the boys very much. He was the one who gave them names. He spoiled them with gifts. But these young and talented people were not destined to live long lives. They left this world in the prime of their lives. This is a direct descendant of Shaken Aimanov, Daler Aimanov, the great-grandson. Despite that he did not choose artistic career, but a technical specialty, the principles and attitude inherent in the films of his famous great-grandfather are close and clear to him.
Один из фильмов, который больше всего мне вот, так сказать.
The film that resonates most with me is The Land of the Fathers. I rewatched it not long ago. The film's main idea is to be with your country, to be devoted to your land, your homeland, the place where you were born.
Быть преданным именно своей вот земле, вот, а там и Киндея, вот это вот, да, вот то, что вот именно, как говорится, ну, где родился, там и пригодился, да. В любом случае, именно задача и цель вот именно.
In any case, the objective of his films was to enlighten people, to awaken something inside the viewer, to instill the understanding of the moral core. One way or another, whatever we all do, whatever we make a contribution to a common cause, to the overall development of our country, our people, our culture.
Общий вклад – это все общее развитие нашей страны, нашего народа, нашей культуры.
Свой любимый город Shaken Aimanov снимал удивительно точно.
Shaken Aimanov filmed his favorite city surprisingly accurately, managing to convey perfectly its warmth and mood with every frame. This is why they erected a monument to Shaken Aimanov in the historical part of the city, next to the Abay Theater and the Almaty Hotel. All because he was a bright symbol of better periods of the Soviet era. He sits in a relaxed pose, looking around and smiling the way only he could. His signature smile. A legendary man, a man of the era, a man who left behind an astounding legacy of interesting and touching films that are relevant to this day.
Во все времена.